Hi, class. I hope you've been enjoying your reading thus far. With it being Wednesday, I figure we can start talking about the reading that you've been doing since you've had a week since your last batch of reading that was assigned. So this time around, you've read three different and distinct stories. You read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Gilman. You've read There Will Come Soft Rains by Ray Bradbury. And you've read The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. I hope I didn't mispronounce the last name. I think I did okay. I wonder, though, did you see the connections that you should have been able to find within those three stories? And when I say should have been able to, I don't really mean that, if you didn't see this, oh, you're missing something. No, I mean when you were doing your analysis of those three stories and when you were looking at them as a cohesive unit, as I've been showing you that all things tie together, did you see the connections? Were you able to figure out the elements that were at play within all three of the stories? Did you see any of the literary devices that we've talked about in the past few weeks come up in those stories? So you're of course, this week we've been talking about symbolism, and I wonder if you were able to find a lot of symbols within these stories. I mean, I think that if you took a look at the worksheet that I sent you earlier this week, you would have noticed that the symbolism about the color yellow comes up in a major way. So when you think about yellow, you don't think, I don't, and maybe you do, but I think of sunshine and happiness and brightness and joy and things like that. But yellow actually is a symbol for old, decrepit, worn. And I think that if you look at that definition of symbol, which kind of strikes me as odd, just from my perspective, and I think, again, remember, all these things can be the way you perceive them. But from a general standpoint, if you look at that symbolism what the symbol yellow represents, imagine, indeed, I found a page for you that I wanted to talk about. Imagine the way that the wallpaper showcases that. Like, remember, I want to say it was page 305. Let's take a look. Of course, I'm in the big, massive book of stories. Yeah, it was page 305. I mean, she had just gotten into this room. They are just getting to this house and she's finding it to be so sort of oppressive. So if you look here, just under a halfway down of the page, she says the color, she's talking about yellow, the color is repellent, almost revolting, a smoldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by the slow turning sunlight. If she's feeling that upon approaching the room, can you imagine how she ended up feeling being stuck in that room day in, day out? So I'm assuming that from that by now you've read the story itself and then the piece at the end about why the author wrote the story. I think that's a very, very important piece because it shows you a little bit more about the times and talks to you about how mental illness or what was perceived as mental illness was treated. Rest therapy was a real thing, and just the inability to get out of your head or get out of the room and stretch your legs and actually live among the living could drive someone to the degree that the character went. So that just consider that symbolism of the yellow. I also see the symbolism of the eyes. And when she mentions the bulbous eyes of it, like the person's got a broken, it's not far from this section either, I don't think. The person has a broken head, broken neck, and it looks as though the eyes are, I can't find it. It looks as though the eyes are looking at her upside down, and that pattern continues to repeat and repeat and repeat. Yes, that kind of brings us right into the horror fiction realm. And of course, for me, that's pretty interesting. But I think that the symbolism is really striking there. The eyes looking at her, to me, symbolize the attention she's getting from, the unwanted attention, I might add, that she's getting from the people that surround her. The sister dotes on her, but placates her. The brother and husband believe that she's ill. They're doctors, they're prominent, hence by extension, they're intelligent and know what they're talking about. Therefore, she and her feelings and what she thinks are sort of pushed to the side. Yet these eyes keep watching as though they know what's going on, as though they know what's best. It's very interesting. I'm going to switch over to the whiteboard really quickly as we talk about the other ones. No, that's not what I meant to do. Let's try the whiteboard function. Okay, so here, hopefully you can see this whiteboard section that I'm showing you. If we think about the stories, let me move this out of the way here. Story number 1, the yellow wallpaper. I'm just going to write soft rains in the interest of time. And necklace. For some reason, we're having some trouble continuing to make everything be capital as I'm speaking here. Okay. If we look at these and we consider them from a symbolism standpoint, of course, we see, there's several different things that point things out to us, right? So we talked about the eyes and the color yellow in the yellow wallpaper from a symbolism standpoint. Then within the soft rain section, I wonder what you saw as a symbol in that. I see a lot of different things in that. Symbolism itself kind of falls to the wayside to the literary device, but let's, for the sake of argument, let's have the conversation about what symbols you see there. So if I can't type it all. Okay, so if I am talking about the soft rain story, the Ray Bradbury story, where the house was sort of going through all the same machinations that it would have gone through had the people been alive, and it was a smart home that was sort of left to care for no one, if you will, because there'd been some sort of a nuclear catastrophe and there were no humans left, and the only thing that seemed to exist were the wildlife around and their family dog. So if you think about what was happening in there, you hear the robotic voice telling you the date and the time at the beginning of the story. You also hear that at the very end. What is that a symbol for anything? Is that voice? Is it time goes on? Is it the machine continues to live? Is it fear the machine? Is it, what could that possibly be? I'll tell you what I think. The one thing that did stick out was the color black. If you think about when you look outside and there's the silhouette of the man, the father mowing the lawn, the mother tending to the garden, the children playing ball, and the ball in the air, like literally waiting to be caught, but it never falls. Think of that, and then their charred images were thrown against the wall. We can say that differently. That's melodramatic, but they're charred. Basically, whatever the blast was imprinted that image on the wall, and that's all we know of them. That's all we know of anyone that would be human, because nothing else survived except this, what I'm calling a smart home, but I'm sure that's not the term for it way back when, but this home that was sort of self-sufficient. Nothing else survives. Black is a symbol. It means foreboding and danger and death in a lot of cases, and in this case specifically, that meant death. But what of the animals? Why were they still alive? Why did they not succumb to whatever the blast did to the humans? Because it wasn't just that family dog, it was the foxes that would bother the house, and the house would ask who goes there, and that kind of thing. Is there symbolism there in any way, in any place? See, that's the thing I want you to think about with theme and symbolism and really assessing fiction. This right or wrong doesn't actually exist. You're thinking through the process. You're thinking about what the author might have meant and why they might have made certain decisions and how those decisions inform the story. So you just need to be thinking through the process. The necklace This might be perhaps one of the easiest places to locate your theme, your symbol. A lot of things going on in this story, but frankly, the necklace itself is sort of the theme that stands out. The spelling, it's amazing. The necklace itself is the thing that stands out because that necklace symbolized Matilda's thought about success, wealth, status, and it also was a symbol for her downfall. So now between these three stories, do you see, there's one literary device that jumps out at me, just jumps out at me. And it's irony. It is irony. Isn't it ironic? That the necklace should be fake. Isn't it ironic that they would work themselves to the bone, just push themselves just mercilessly for 10 years trying to recover the cost that they had signed themselves up to by trying to replace that necklace? And then come to find out all those years later, after, you know, time has taken its toll and bent her back, bent his back, and changed their lives, that when she bumps into her friend, that necklace was cheap. She had indicated, I don't want to go among the rich and feel poor, when she was talking to her husband about going to that party. Yet she was wearing a fake, you know, it's not, I don't even think it's like cubic zirconia. It sounds like it was even worse, just less, lower quality than that. You know, something you could have gotten out of Claire's. Yet she worked her fingers, and he worked his fingers to the bone to recover that. Pride comes into play here too. Soft rains. Isn't it ironic that someone could build such a structure to feed them, clothe, lay out their clothes, bathe them, get them ready for, you know, keep them on task, keep them on schedule, entertain them in the evening with a cigar or in a warm fire and the poetry or reading selection that you're interested in. Yet they couldn't save their dog. A dog whose voice they recognized, the house recognized as part of the family and should be allowed in, could not set out water or food for the starving animal that belonged to that house. Isn't it ironic that whomever built the structure, which we don't know, it was not divulged to us, whoever built the structure did not survive because they're not inside that structure. There's no mention at all of any human presence whatsoever. So isn't it ironic that you build this fortress that can do everything for you, yet it doesn't benefit you at all because whatever blast happens, especially if you assume that the person who built it was the either the mother or the father of the parents that are outside, well, they were in their yard and they succumbed to whatever just happened, and the house itself couldn't save them. Could not save them. That's the interest, that the irony there, I truly appreciate. Definitely appreciate. So think about it as you go. Think about it as you go. And I want you to think about, you notice I deliberately left off the yellow wallpaper because I want you to have the opportunity to come up with your own thoughts and think about it. You know, what you're doing is a close reading. And I want you to do that close reading and give it some true critical thought so that when you respond in your discussion board post this week, you can think about some of these themes and think about some of these, you know, connections. And maybe if literature didn't connect for you before, or didn't, you know, truly resonate, maybe this sort of notice of how things tie together, no matter the genre, maybe that'll help you to, you know, be able to round out your experience. Okay, well, that was fun. The whiteboard was kind of fun. I'm glad I was able to sort out getting it set up. How do I get it to stop sharing so that I can turn the video off? That would be neat. Wish it was new. Just an easy thing to do. Just boom, stop share. It should be right there. Oh, it is. Okay, here it is. All right then. So I hope this is beneficial to you, and I look forward to your discussion board posts. Have a good one.